This is the Money in My Life interview with my mom, Tori Hutchins. What were your family finances like growing up, and how did it affect you?
Well, I grew up in the Midwest, and back in those days, Midwesterners, and they probably are today, are known as frugal, conservative, financially conservative folks who live in inexpensive homes and do whatever they can to, make ends meet and without spending much. So my dad and my mom were just like that. They were frugal. They didn't spend a whole lot. We never went on vacations. Like, I think one time we went to Florida, and that was a big deal. Whereas nowadays, people go on vacation all the time, every year. They go to, Mexico and all these other places, Europe. So, needless to say, it was simple. Like, life was simple, and I didn't have many of the luxuries or privileges that kids do nowadays. My mom and dad saved a lot of money as well, and that resulted in them being able to retire by the time they were 55, which is unheard of nowadays. They invested it wisely. They, like I said, were frugal, and also they didn't spend any money on us. I mean, they did, but we had a Catholic school education, but my mom had to work at the Catholic school, and I think she probably got some discounts. But like, we didn't play club sports. There was no such thing back then. We didn't have 8 pairs of shoes. We only had maybe 2. A pair of tennis shoes and a pair of school shoes. So I think with that upbringing, that formulated a lot of my financial values today.
Question 2. What was your first big purchase? Looking back, would you have done anything different in regards to this purchase?
My first big purchase was a brand new truck, and I didn't purchase this until, I think I was about 27 years old. And so it's kind of a big deal because I had a pretty decent job for that age. I was working in my career, and I thought $28,000 a year was a lot of money, so I deserved a new car. And nothing could be further from the truth. Instead of spending however much I spent, what were the car payments were probably like $300 a month, which is stupid. I could have easily bought a used car for a lot less money and then put the money that I spent on this brand new car towards my savings or retirement or something else. So, needless to say, my first big purchase was really fun. It was a 4-wheel drive truck, but I do sometimes have regrets in not being smarter at the time.
Question 3. Who was the person that had the most positive influence on your money decisions, and what did they do that influenced you?
Well, I have to say that's probably my father-in-law, your grandpa. He enabled us through his savings over the years for your dad. He took half of all gift money that they received for birthday or Christmas or whatever the occasion. He would save half of each check or each amount of money
That he gave us?
that your dad received as a kid. So like, pretend that grandma gave you $100 for your birthday.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like me taking $50 of it and saving it for you and investing it. And that's what your grandpa did. And as a result, he was able to send your dad off with $40,000 in a Roth IRA. And I thought that was tremendous at the time because I had nothing even close to it when I met your dad. And so I think that your grandpa's influence in that respect really made me reprioritize or rethink the way I was spending my money and how little decisions can make a big difference down the road.
Question 4. What is one example of how money has had a positive impact on your life?
Well, money enables me to sleep at night. When you have money, you don't have to worry about things like what we're going to eat tomorrow? Or what are we going to do for entertainment with our kids? Or how are we going to put a roof over our head? Because money enables you to live in a house and to buy food and to contribute to society in a positive way. So I have to say that being financially secure is a good thing and enables us to live a good life without any financial stress.
Question 5. What is one example of how money has had a negative impact on your life?
Well, the exact opposite of what I just answered. There's this thing called financial stress. If you are in debt beyond what you're able to pay, like if you're living beyond your means, which I'm sure I've done at one point or another throughout my life here and there. I think I've mostly been pretty smart, but there are times when you're like, oh, I'm just going to spend. And then all of a sudden you have debt and you're not able to pay your bills, and that causes a lot of stress. And those are times when I would lose sleep at night, and I would be scared. I'm like, what am I doing? Am I going to have to work until I'm 78 years old? This is not how I want to live. And so money definitely can have a negative effect on your life, especially if you're not smart about it.
Question 6. What do you wish you would have known regarding money when you were my age?
This is a tough question. I really don't have a very good answer for it. I do know that I wish I would have known how frivolous, silly spending can add up, and all of a sudden you do the math and you realize, oh my gosh, I could have not spent all of that money, and I could have had more today than I did than I do now. I guess I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known more about money. I wish I would have been smarter about it, or at least had a class like this that I could have taken.
Question 7. What is one positive decision you made regarding money in your life?
I think the best decision that I or we ever made was to buy real estate. We bought some real estate. We bought a condo to live in when we lived in the mountains of Summit County a long time ago. So this was back in the year 2000, right when we got married. We bought a condo, lived in that for 2 years, and when we sold it, we had like an extra $30,000. It was amazing. And then we used that money to go and buy our next house, which was in Wisconsin. And we lived in that house for 3 years. And when we sold that house, we had an extra $80,000. I mean, maybe it wasn't that much. I don't know. I want to say it was something like that. And that enabled us to move to Denver and put a down payment on a house that we live in today that has almost doubled in value. I mean, that is like a remarkable return on your money. Granted, we put a lot of investment in our house, but I think that's a great decision that we made.
Question 8. What is one negative decision you made regarding money in your life?
I remember when I was in college and I was so broke, and I needed money so badly, and there were these people hanging out that were selling Discover cards, not selling, but giving away applications for credit cards, and it was Discover card. And they're like, yeah, you can have, X amount of dollars to use, no problem. And I really didn't understand what that entailed. I didn't realize that there was a hefty interest fee that went along with the money that you used. Like, I was kind of new to this whole idea of having credit and having a credit score. So I filled out the application, I got the credit card. Oh my God, life was great. I was like spending money, and I had money, and I was all psyched, but then I realized I had to pay it back, and pretty soon that, $2,000 turns to $3,000 because of all the interest that that it gains. So that was really bad.
Question 9. How is money management different today than it was when you were my age?
So when I was your age, like I said, my mom and dad, they saved. They tried not to spend money. they weren't like misers, but they did not spend like people today do. And so I would think that's definitely a different money management style. People spend money nowadays. It seems like to me they spend it a lot on a lot more things than they used to when I was your age. So,
Is there anything you wish you could do over again related to your management of money throughout your life?
I wish I would have saved more. I mean, there's just no question. But at the time, like I felt like there was so little money that I had that it was impossible for me to save. And your grandpa, you know, Dad's dad, was actually the one who said that if you don't save anything, you don't have anything to show for what you're doing, what you're working for. And I thought that was a great way to word things. And if I would have saved more, I would have been able to buy a piece of real estate in the mountains way back when I lived there in the 90s, when it was so much more affordable, and then we'd be sitting pretty right now, but we're not.
Question 11. Based on your experience with money so far in your life, what lasting piece of advice about money would you like to give youth of today?
So there is a saying that goes, money can't buy happiness. And I, over the years, have learned that actually does, I disagree with that saying, because I do feel like money does buy a certain amount of happiness. If you are able to live comfortably because you don't have financial stress, it makes you happier as a person. You're not worried all the time. Also, I would love it if the youth of today would go out to lunch less and make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at home more often, so that they can save that $10 for something else down the road.